real estate agent not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, Expert Attendance Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Welcome to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Brand new show this week. I apologize, I was out of town last weekend, but brand new show this weekend. Lots and lots of great stuff we'll talk about here. And the biggest here, we got the brand new market numbers in. Very, very, very interesting. Last month, we had a significant drop in home sales last month, 25+% decline. We'll talk about exactly what those numbers are. Good news, though, prices bumped back up a little bit. We had seen a significant decline. We saw an 8% plus decline in terms of prices the last few months, but ultimately we saw a teeny tiny bounce, which is good news for home sellers out there. We'll talk about what there. Also, we see inventory. Huge increase in inventory up 42%, meaning 42% more homes available in the same time last year. We'll talk about that. And one thing we'll talk about, though, is what's a good time to buy. Rates have kind of come back down a little bit. They're not quite as high as people thought they were. What I noticed was a lot of people didn't realize they had dropped back down, right, when everybody started seeing them over 6%. So we'll talk about that, what's going on there. We're seeing a lot of buyers who got frustrated and just got out of the market before are now kind of getting back in. They're finding that there's availability for them to buy. And we talked about this many, many, many months ago, that there was kind of this stalemate, right, where people wanted to sell, but they didn't sell because they couldn't find anything to buy. And so they were just kind of just getting frustrated and staying where they were. And now there's an opportunity where they still have lots of equity, massive equity in many cases, a lot more than they even know they have. And they can now find something to move to laterally, moving up, moving down. So we'll talk about that. It's a really good opportunity right now for that in that scenario. Also, I'm working with a fund personally looking to buy any properties out there, specifically, any multifamily properties that you have, multiplex, duplexes, triplex, for anything else out there, as well as commercial building myself personally. So we'll talk about there and what's going on. We also have some amazing success stories. Our team's absolutely crushing it through this, doing very, very, very good in serving clients and really being experts and helping guide people to what's happening. We've had a lot of sellers call us who've listed a property before and had a friend or relative or somebody, and they expected to sell within like a day or two, and guess what? It didn't happen. And we're seeing this a lot, and we'll talk about this. And I was really training my team with this because we've gotten so many calls where they list with somebody for 30 days. It was a friend who had just gotten real estate. They thought they get it sold, and they're freaking out because it's not selling. And that's the thing right now is, 6-8 months ago, your friend who just got in real estate could put their cell phone photos on the MLS and it would sell. Now, guess what? That doesn't work so well. These homes are sitting on the market. They're not getting the right action. They're not getting the right differentiation. So very, very interesting times for home sellers right now. Very, very good times for me and us because we've been studying this game for a long time, mastering the game of really advertising, marketing, and making sure we get the right leverage for our clients. And so that's how I like to be in a market like that, where you truly can differentiate. And we'll talk about some of those tips and tricks and what to do to make sure you get the most exposure for your home in this current marketplace. You heard the personal endorsements here by Sean Kennedy, also Barbara Corcoran, Gary LeBlanc. Put it all together, it's just totally unprecedented. Now, that's one thing, but the other thing is that Blake has trademark systems for both home sellers and home buyers. There are trademarks, so we can't give you all the details, but more than happy every week to tell you the most important part of that system. Yes, and this is more important than ever. It goes right back to what I was just talking about, where everyone makes this huge mistake of thinking that all real estate agents are the same. And that maybe have been kind of closer than ever in this last market that was just super hot, super heavy, a buyer frenzy, right, where anybody can put a for sale sign in the yard and take some photos and get it sold. Now, that didn't necessarily mean it's getting sold for the most amount of money. We had many shows back in the day where people cost themselves $50,000, $60,000 by doing so. What they're noticing, though, is that all real estate agents are the same. And you can really see that right now as the market has shifted. You see 40+% increase in inventory, 25% decrease in sales. Guess what? Now you actually have to be good to get some results. And so it's just like any doctor, any lawyer, right? If I'm charged with a crime, I did not commit the absolute worst thing I want is somebody who's just a part-time attorney who just got, licensed as an attorney and has only tried a few cases. But for some reason, I can't figure out why, people will gamble with their largest asset and just give it to anybody or the cheapest one, right? If I get charged with that crime, I don't want the cheapest attorney. I want the best attorney who really understands that type of law and can give me the best representation. But for some reason, everyone makes this huge mistake of thinking that agents are the same. And so that's the whole reason we do this show, was to kind of teach on that, provide value to you. The same thing we do in 10 plus years here. But here's the deal. I made a promise a long time to talk about this.
And that promise was to help you understand that the single most important variable that determines your failure or success as a home seller comes down to one thing only. And that thing is the agent that you choose, period, right? It's not the wall color, not the quality of the grass, not the time of the year you list the property. It comes down to how does your agent actually execute? Do they actually know what they're doing in those processes? And the reason that is most people don't even know this, especially a lot of agents don't know this, is there's 118 different variables from A to Z that must be handled correctly to get your home sold properly and for the most amount of money. Most agents have no clue what they are because they haven't taken time to slow down and map them out. Thankfully, we did that many years ago and said, what has to happen in the right order and the right way to make sure we can give our client the ultimate competitive advantage? And so we look at it like stacking the dominoes, right? That ball is dropped at any point. And it could be anything from, does your agent actually answer the telephone when a buyer calls out for a sale sign? Shoot, do they even put a for sale sign out there? What's their advertising like online? What's the quality of their photos like? What's the actual order of the photos they have online? Because there is a psychological way that buyers search for properties. And so there's all these things that go into this place that make or break the home sale on the back end and really make sure that you get the right exposure and the right price. And so what we did is say, look, how can we take those dominoes, line those dominoes up so we get the most amount of leverage for our client, and we stack them in our favor. And so we create the maximum leverage for our client at point two, maximum leverage for our client at point two, and then three, and we stack those up over the entire 118. So at the end, once you knock all those down, the right ones in the right order, it gives our client you a huge competitive advantage. So I designed that system. We mapped it out. We designed it out, trademarked it. It's called the Guaranteed Sold System, the only basically sales system that sells homes twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. Versus what most agents do is the 3 Ps, right? One, they promise the world to get the listing. I mean, they tell you anything and everything to get you to list a property with them. Number two, they put it into MLS with some cell phone photos or maybe even photographer. And then three, they just sit back and pray that someone else brings a buyer. Meanwhile, they're down the street trying to get the next listing because that's how their business model works and that's how they survive. And so there's much, much more better ways out there where you want to have somebody who's a specialist who can manage all those variables and juggle all those balls for you. And that's what our system does. On the flip side, it's very difficult still for buyers. And so you want to make sure you have the right representation, the right guidance, the right expertise. And so we create this thing called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System for buyers out there. Get you priority access to best deals, foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as negotiation home inspection to get you that closing table successfully. But both those, again, do one thing, get you a huge competitive advantage. So if you listen to the show at all, just take into account, look, it does matter. Business models matter. How your agent operates matter. And how most agents operate is an old school 8-track tape way where they're not living in the new iPad world. What you have is most agents trying to juggle all the balls themselves, which is not possible, right? There's 118 different variables just to sell one listing. That's hard for one person to do on themselves on one listing. Imagine now they're trying to get 10 listings. They're also trying to work with buyers at the same time. There's 100 plus variables to get somebody to the closing table on a buy side. And so what you end up having is most agents, how 95% of agents operate is a one single agent or maybe a husband and wife team or something like that. And what they do is they try to juggle all those balls like the same person at McDonald's working the front register, the drive-through, and the french fries at the same time. We both know that wouldn't be a good restaurant experience, but why would you allow yourself to have the same experience and sell them on your largest assets and letting that person try to juggle all the balls where in the same situation for the same cost, you have a huge team of specialists who handles those variables, get you maximum leverage, and get you the most money for your home. So you want to know more how it works, reach out, call us, 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com. Anytime, take a quick break, right back in a second.
Here with my trusted friend in the real estate market, Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If I were listing a home today, what advice would you give me?
The advice that I give you today is you have to find an agent with a proven marketing plan that can get you the exposure you need to get top dollar and record numbers in today's marketplace. Most agents just put MLS and hope someone else brings a buyer. Meanwhile, you need somebody who spends money and gets the traction and traffic that you deserve.
And how would that impact my bottom line? That's what matters.
That massively impacts your bottom line because it brings more traffic, it brings more buyers, it creates bidding wars, but more importantly, it brings in the traction of buyers from out of town who see our value and are willing to come in and pay more money and top dollar for your property here along the Grand Strand.
All right, as always, thanks for the insight. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corbin. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options to home sellers, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers at time crunch, we can agree to sell it by a certain date, days after it almost even ready.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time,
Use our proven marketing plan and sell it for the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Got a brand new market update. Some very interesting numbers. We'll talk about what's going on. There's two types of numbers we always talk about. There is the numbers that are basic closed numbers, which is what most people pay attention to, what everyone looks at. And we also can tell what's happening real time based on new properties under contract. Always call those kind of the front windshield numbers, right? I'm looking out front. I'm seeing what's happening real time. And I can understand about 30 to 60 days, those properties are closed. You can look and see what type of trends are happening. We've been doing that every day, literally, since COVID started. And so we look at the previous 7 days. We'll talk about kind of what that looks like overall. Hit the overall market so you can kind of get that information first. Where single-family resale homes last month were down 23.4% from the same month last year. This morning, it showed over 25%. I think a few more sales have just been put in a little bit later on the month from last month. So let's look at July, right? What closed in July between July 1st, July 31st. Last month, 504 home sales versus in June, 660 home sales. If you look last year overall into 2021, June was one of the biggest numbers we had last year, 797 home sales in June, then also went to July with 658. And so in this year, in July, only 504. So you can see a significant difference there in terms of what you're seeing, basically 154 less properties sold this year in July than the same time last year. And obviously, we've seen that happen. We've seen the market kind of peak out in terms of closed sales this year, happened in March at 702, then went back down all the way into May at 611 and back up last month at 660. Right now, we're sitting at July at 504. So you're seeing significant decline, about a 25% decrease from the same time last year. Now, if you go back to our previous shows, been listening for a while, about a month to 6 weeks ago, we started talking about, hey, look, we're seeing about a 25% decline in terms of buyers online. If you've been listening for a while, I talked about that. Maybe it's 2 months ago. Hey, look, we're seeing about 25% less buyers online searching. So we're probably going to see a little bit decline about the same thing. Right on the money, right at 23.4% decline. And that's just something you can really forecast and see what happens based on the amount of buyers looking out there, what's happening, what's going on. And that's still, though, very, very good in terms of what's happening here compared to a lot of places across the country. One thing, look at sales price. Sales price, median price is up from the same time last year, up 13.9%. It is down from the peak this year in May at 380,000. Right now, we're at 370,000. It's been flat, though, for the past 2 months in terms of median. Average is where we're seeing the most change in prices. So this year, we peaked out in April at 486,984 for average sale price. It declined the last few months, and in June it was 449,987. It came up a little bit. That's what I was talking about in the intro. It's up a little bit. So in June, 449,987. Right now for July, 452,711. So really, almost $3,000 there. But you're seeing that kind of really be down from where it was. We're seeing a lot of higher end properties take a little bit more significant declines. If you look at those numbers, it's something really noticed as well. But still good news in terms of what we're seeing in prices. Inventory is still low, even though it's a lot more than it was last year. It's still very, very low. So right now, inventory has increased tremendously. It's up 42.9% from the same time last year. Right now, it's at 2.0 months of inventory. We haven't seen that in a very, very long time. I'll tell you right now, last time we saw 2 months of inventory was right around December 2020. And so that's something to really kind of look at and understand where it's kind of climbing back up. But still, you have to look at it. It's still in a seller's market. Anything 6 months or below in inventory is technically a seller's market, meaning the seller has an advantage, which is something that's important to kind of look at there as well. But it does mean there's a lot more competition, right? Almost double the competition there was last year. I look at this a little bit more of a normalization, right? We're getting back to normal a little bit. There's a lot of different things, kind of going on. We'll talk about this later in the show about, is it actually something crashing or is it more normalization? Right now, what we're seeing is a little more normalization, right? It got to where it needed to kind of be cooled off a little bit, where some of these numbers we are seeing, especially condos with a 43% increase in price year over year, is not something that's sustainable. So we'll talk about kind of what's going on there overall. And showings per listings down significantly from last year, down 26.8%. From the same time last year. And we've kind of seen that taper off, especially since really March of this year when interest rates started climbing up. And just something we're overall looking at to see in general. If you look at condos, really quick for condo sales, closed sales down 26.4% for condos, 509 condos sold versus last year. If you're looking at the same time, last year at the same time, 692. This year, we peaked out in March, 805 805 condo sales, and it's really gone down month versus month all the way until July at 509 condo sales. And so that's really cooling off. We usually see condos will kind of lead that charge if things do go down because there tend to be second homes, not quite as much demand as obviously an owner occupant looking for their in that scenario. Also, months of supply up 72% right now for condos. So huge jump year versus year. Right now at 1.9 months of inventory for condos, but big time jump year over year overall in terms of that. Overall, and also showings per listing down 21.2% for condos. So that's the rear view mirror numbers, right? We're kind of looking at what's going on. I'm not too, I'm actually a little optimistic what we're seeing. We've seen it bump back up since rates kind of came back down a little bit a few weeks ago. But like last 7 days in this show, we go through this all the time. Last 7 days, 541 properties under contract for 199 million. Remember going back, anytime we see about 200 million go under contract in a 7-day period is great news. That's kind of a good thing there. If you look at last week's show, only 502 under contract for 176 million. The difference though, are properties active. So in last week's show, 804 active properties. Right now, 835 properties. We've seen that climb significantly in terms of what's going on. If I go back, just 7 weeks ago, 567 under contract for 189 million. If you go back just a long time ago, like you're looking at, let's say 12 weeks ago, you look at 690 under contract in a 7-day period, 215 million. But here's the deal. Back then, there's only 382 active properties. That's interesting enough in itself. Here's the good news. We're still seeing a lot of properties go under contract that are high end. We're seeing a lot of high end movement. We're seeing a lot of high end buyers right now. If we go back 12 weeks ago, in that same 215 million, right? There was 13 properties over $1 million that went under contract. Guess what? Last 7 days, we had 13 properties over $1 million go under contract, which is awesome, right? Some of those 2, 3, 4 million. If you look at 12 weeks ago, there was 107 properties that went under contract over 500,000. This week, last 7 days, 93 over 500,000. So not that much difference in that 12-week period, which is good, right? It means you're kind of bouncing back a little bit. Again, I think that does have to do with rates coming back down. There's initial sticker shock when they jumped almost a full point a couple months ago. And so good news here, if you're thinking about moving, right, take advantage of some opportunity here for more inventory. The main number in those two are the 382 active properties back then versus 835 active single family homes in Horry County. There's a lot more opportunities out there. So if you're thinking about buying, rates are still relatively low. You can still get pretty good, price in terms of negotiation. You're also seeing a lot more choices out there. Now, if I'm a home seller, I want to understand that, hey, look, I may want to get my property in the market for 2 reasons. Number one, we're seasonal here. We know that, right? Properties show the best in the summer, fall, also the spring. We're coming to that fall market. We see a lot of great buyers coming in town. We've had lots of buyers that our team has already lined up with their fall trip to come down and purchase something. And it's one of those things that, look, you're going to see more inventory, which means more competition for you, and rates could potentially go back up. And so take advantage of that right now. You can still get a lot of top dollar prices. We're still getting multiple offers on a lot of our properties because inventory is still low. We're only 2 months inventory. So you want to know more about that, been thinking about it, or if you have a rental property or something, hey, look, I'm thinking about cashing out, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. That's something that's very important because we're seeing that happen a lot right now where people have been kind of wondering what to do. If I'm thinking about selling and I want to cash out the top, definitely you want to make sure you do that. Some people have missed that boat just a little bit overall. Looking at last week's rates, they're at 5.22%. Right now at 5.33%. They've been bouncing around a little bit last week, so it's not too bad, right? We hit the high a little bit over a month ago at 6.28%. Right now we're at 5.33. That's when you saw a lot of buyers jump back in a 15-year fixed rate right now, 4.65%. A 30-year jumbo loan, 4.70%, which is awesome, right? We're getting a lot of people who've seen lock rates in the 4s lately. 5-year adjust rate mortgage, 5.50. 30-year FHA loan, this is awesome, 4.72% right now. And a 30-year VA loan is 4.75%. So rates back down pretty good. If you're thinking about making that move, reach out, call me. If you're thinking about selling this year, take advantage of this fall market where people are coming in town, lots of money coming in town, lots of high-end properties as well. Give me a call, 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com anytime. Be right back in a second.
WRNN listeners, Clay Travis here. As investors get the highest sales price possible.
About 7.5 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask Blake about his guarantee. Get this, Blake guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to or he'll buy it himself. And since you know what your current home will sell by and for how much, you can buy your next home without worrying about getting stuck with two more. There's simply no other agent in the market who has a guarantee that will line up against what Blake Sloan can offer you. So when you're looking to sell and buy, he is your guy. Read nearly 750 five-star reviews by Googling Sloan Realty Group. Give Blake a call today and start packing. That's Sloan Realty Group. And tune in to Blake's show Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Got a hot buyers alert. My team and I are working with a ridiculous amount of homeowners, home buyers looking to buy here in Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand area from $250,000 to $4.3 million. If you're thinking about selling, give us a call immediately, 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. One thing we've been doing here for a very, very, very long time is putting our money where our mouth is. Dave used to read this out. We share every week, but we want to say, look, most realtors out there, they don't start marketing to get buyers for your home until they put the sign in the yard and you've already signed the agreement. Here, we're much different, where we spend tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars every month driving traffic from across the globe to help bring buyers in to get buyers to your property that helps them sell faster and for more money. And so one thing we do is share, hey, look, here's our real count of active buyers that we have from that standpoint. And like I mentioned before, we outspend the average agent because our business model, 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. So right now, current active buyers on our website with a username, password account who are searching actively, 68,987 active home buyers. Again, 68,987 active home buyers that are people who are just like buyers from across the country looking for something just like you have, that we're able to use our technology, match them up immediately. Right now, I have Sherry Taylor. She's from Georgetown, South Carolina. She's actually pretty new, only had 10 visits. We got 22 properties. I have Scott Ahern from Belmore, New York. I got Vicky from Cary, North Carolina. I got Mark from Montrose, PA. I got John Fulton from Columbia, South Carolina. Leon Allen Tintoff from Wilmington, North Carolina. Here you go. Elizabeth DeMarcado from Los Angeles, California. You see from all over Maryland. I got East Secretary, New York. I got Jersey City, New Jersey, Concord, North Carolina. From all over, we're seeing lots and lots of money come in. And so guess what we do? We spend tremendous amount of money where they go to search, where the eyeballs are at, and that's online. And so we have massive traffic here. And everybody asks, like, what makes you different versus anyone else? Our business model is a huge advantage for us because I can outspend the average agent 100 to 1, where most of them are just spending money trying to get your listing, right, in postcards and mailers. We're spending traffic online to get buyers, where worst case scenario, we'll sell them something else in the MLS. But best case scenario, you have a team of great agents who are awesome and good at what they do, and they match up our buyers to your listing the first day it's listed when it comes in the market, which is awesome. We even have technology we developed that takes any new listing, aka your house, and it reverse engineers the most likely buyer for your property based on their previous search patterns and online behaviors. And so it knows, based on what they've been looking at, and it scores them from 1 to 100 who the most likely buyer for your property is. And so we're able to come in, select all of those, click a few buttons. We can call them back to back to back. We say, hey, look, Sherry, we got a brand new house. It matches exactly what you're looking for. Do you want to take a look at it? Well, guess what? She does, because she's on our website right now. She knows who we are. She's been here 10 separate times, looked at 22 properties, and we're here to help serve her. And so what we're good at is doing what we're supposed to do, is match up buyers and sellers and have an aggressive sales team behind it that does that, where most agents, really, right, they just put the sign in the yard, pray that someone else brings a buyer. They're moving on down the street trying to get the next listing, and they're okay getting half the commission. But the problem is you got to wait for time and time again to hopefully get a buyer in that scenario. And so if you want the aggressiveness, you want somebody who has systems like technology and processes where we have a team of experts that can help match up buyer and seller, reach out, call us, and do me a favor, right? Anybody that you know that's thinking about selling, right? Friend, relative, aunt, uncle, whatever it is. If they mention real estate, say, look, you got to call my buddy Blake. That's the only thing that we ask for. You hear on the show, we do it. We just want to serve you all, help you get great information, help you make great decisions in terms of one of your largest assets, which is real estate. Only thing we ever ask for is, hey, look, anybody you come across that's thinking about moving, have them call us. It's so awesome. It's so rewarding to be able to say, hey, look, so-and-so called in off the radio. We're able to help serve them. We sold their property in 2 days over asking price, and they're super, super happy. So very, very cool in terms of that. Really quick, and the reason we share that, obviously, the whole buyer thinks is we need listings, right? We have way more listings than there are available as of right now, right? 800 plus properties in Horry County. They're single-family homes. We have 68,987 buyers. You can see my problem. So have them reach out, have them call me. Awesome thing we like to do every week too is success stories. Very, very proud of our team in terms of that. Just want to give a big shout out to Bob. He recently decided to move back to PA. He had a rental property in Little River, though. He wanted to sell because he didn't want to be a landlord from a long distance. The property needed a little bit of work, though, but did not just want to simply use a traditional old school realtor. Thankfully, here's an example. Bob heard from us from an amazing radio listener that we had different options available and decided to give us a call. We met with Bob, shared with him exactly how we have thousands of buyers already looking to purchase properties in all types of conditions like his, right? We designed a custom plan, launched our global marketing blitz, professional photos, virtuality walkthrough within just a couple of days, had multiple offers. He chose an all cash offer as is, meaning they made no change to the property. He cashed out on top of the market and doesn't have to worry about being a landlord from over 600 miles away in terms of that. So big shout out to Bob out there. Also, Red and Steph recently made a decision to downsize their home, want to stay in the area. Thankfully, Red's been listening to us on this radio station. Big shout out to Red. Knew exactly who to call first. We met with Red and Steph, shared with them exactly how we could get their home sold, but also get it sold for top dollar. With a couple of days, we drove massive traffic, had Red and Steph offer 16% higher than the average sale price in their neighborhood. At the same time, we helped them find the perfect home for them and the family and coordinated both closing dates at the same time to make sure that we can get them to close on the same exact day. So we're very good at that delicate dance of buying and selling. That's what our team's for. Very, very important. So don't make a mistake, right? Call Blake. Give us a call, 843-808-SOLD, or go to blakesloan.com anytime. What's up, Joe?
I'll edit that out. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen, and the way they have the computer set up now, you have to like flip it to go back screen to screen. It's just
That's cool.
a little bit to go. Like I said, I'll edit that out. So
Moving on, you want a real estate agent who will make selling your home easy and stress-free. An agent who's willing to let you out of the contract if you're not happy with their service. That's why in Myrtle Beach, I can tell you that Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group markets your home on a whole different level.
All right,